Georma has a harde. Thomas Eide has no matter reached. Ash Eide. I just want to mark today is it 4 years since I started to remake my Irish language series that I haven't made very much for at all yet. But I'm a nostalgic old fart, so I thought I'd mark the day somehow and just make a crap video about something light, nothing to do with phonetics really, but something that might hopefully be of interest to people. So let's talk about the definite article in Irish, and we'll dive straight in. Straight in, no kissing. So, the definite article. What is the definite article? The word gone. Great start. Untitled Chapter. English, of course. Well, this is just a grammatical term for the word the. The indefinite article, Untitled is the word a, and there's no indefinite article in Irish, there's no word for a. So a man and man are the same word. Far. But the definite article in Irish can be divided into a number of, ways. Uaha is singular and other plural. Now, in singular nouns, there is a distinction to be made between masculine gender, and buininchkinuch. You would think that would be pronounced buininchkinuch, but, buininchkinuch is mostly what's said. So that only applies for the uaha. Then, now we're just going to talk about two of the categories today. The animnuch, which of course you can see here the word anim, name, so that's the English nominative, nomen in Latin, naming something. This is usually the form when the noun is doing the action, or often receiving it as well. There's no difference anymore, we've lost the accusative. And we'll also talk about the dreaded Tishel Ginneduch. Now I will make a few videos about the Tishel Ginneduch, but just a very brief introduction to what the Tishel Ginneduch is. Gin is related to the English word kin, where gin, where the G in the Germanic languages has become devoiced to k. What are your kin? Your kin are the people that are related to you. So the Tishel Ginneduch is when a noun relates more information to a related noun. We'll talk about this in more detail. In English, genitive. Now, so that's the animnuch when we're naming it, and the ginneduch when we're, I'll don't get into it. Animnuch, fid. Now, so the word for masculine nouns, just as a very broad rule, words are masculine in Irish normally if they end in a broad consonant. So if the vowel before the last consonant is A, O, or U. And if it ends in a slender consonant, meaning that it's the sound itself is slender, but it's also indicated by the previous vowel. So if you have I or E just before the last consonant, that ends slender consonant, and most words that end in a slender consonant are feminine, except professions like dochtoid, moontoid, so on. I'll talk about more of the details later. But anyway, so for masculine nouns, like the word man, it's just on. But, T, riv, or rim in Kerry, riv rotri, no father. Rotri. So T before vowels. I'll come back. I might as well give an example as I go. So for example, now, when dealing with the article, I would advise always give 3 types of words. Words that begin with a vowel, so gutha. Words that begin with a consonant, shachas, S. So a word or a consonant except S. In Cork, they say seachas, seachas. So if you're from Cork, don't say seachas, say seachas. 2, and then 3, a word that begins with S, which, as I've mentioned in other videos, was known as Báirín na Gúnsan, the Queen of Consonants, and acts slightly differently. So, for example, a masculine noun. Let's pick the word asl. How can we tell, or an ass, how can we tell that asl is masculine? Well, we can predict that it's masculine because it ends with the broad ul, asl. So, let's pick a word that begins with a consonant. Horse. Again, how can we predict that word is masculine? Because it ends with the broad ul. There's no difference nowadays in Munster between single L and LL, except in the now dormant dialect of Ballymacoda, where LL was LD, especially between vowels. And a masculine word that begins with S, let's choose the word schnach. Fox, although it's not the most common word. Matarua. Now, so if I just want to say, this is the donkey, or that is the donkey, whatever, Shinny and Tassel. So on plus T before vowels. So on, A is a vowel, so we're obviously going to put T before it. C isn't a vowel, so we just put N, and S isn't a vowel, so we just put, on. Tassel, on koppel, on schnach. Now, so the next thing, the Goidelic form of that is on plus chevu, and that chevu is an inbuilt part of the article. So always associate the chevu with the It's the that causes it. If I have time, I'll talk about what actually caused it. Well, basically all chevus were originally caused by when a single consonant was between two vowels in ancient Irish, so about the year, we'll say 400, 500 thereabouts. Agus chevu. Now, well, I'll actually fill out the other table first. Agus chevu, and then now, no agus analu. Analu is often ignored. Actually, well, I've never seen it treated. Analu is the third mutation, and I would advise teaching it as an alu. Don't say, and if you're a teacher, do not say that puts a H, because you'll completely confuse your students. Do you mean a H before vowels or a H after consonants? So chevu, the definition, well, it means softening, but that softening is nowadays shown by putting an unetymological H after the softened letter, whatever softened means. Whereas not analu, anal or inal in Kerry, inal, but anyway, breathing, which is just this H before vowels, that's what analu is. And then, okay, well, I'm going to have to about what I'm after writing down, but and then in the Aldera, there's no distinction of gender. So when plural, we just say no agus analu, and then in the Goidelic of the plural, we have no plus ru. And what you'll notice there, and this is why I would teach it in this order, that the bottom of one column, gone wasted again, is the top of the next. So on agus tíre go tí on plus chevu. On agus chevu, no agus analu. No agus analu, no agus ru. You can see the pattern. Right. So now, let's do some examples. I won't have enough time at all for this, but look, it is better than nothing, perhaps. So, the donkey is on tassel. Shinny and tassel. But if I want to say that's the owner of the donkey, the donkey is related somehow to the owner. It's giving more information about the owner. So we put it in the genitive case. Most masculine words are put in the genitive case by slenderizing their final consonant. That slenderization is shown with this, putting this spelling vowel I before it. So of a donkey is asil. So asal, l, asil. So of the donkey, ontla chevu, we'll say uneid, owner of the donkey, onagus chevu. Chevu only applies to consonants. A isn't a consonant, the chevu doesn't apply. Unaid, now, so horse, unaid, couple with the l is a horse, but l with the slender L means of a horse. So unaid, well, first of all, let's put that in the genitive with the I. Couple, onaga chevu. There's our chevu, or the old punk, God help us. Unaid, unchapel. Unaid a chapel. The N is usually dropped before consonants in speech if the word before the ends in a consonant. Unasil, unchapel. Now, this is interesting. So, schnach, notice that the word in Munster, if all vowels in the word are short, and if we have och, ACH in the second syllable, then the stress goes onto that och, except in abstract nouns. Can I think of an abstract noun? Not off the top of my head. Right, doesn't matter. Anyway, so, schnach, when we slenderize ACH, unstressed slender CH, basically meaning CH when followed by a vowel that isn't in the first syllable, becomes shunnig. So the stress goes back onto the first syllable. In places like Kilkenny, for example, and Leinster, parts of Connemara, that slender GH is lost. Shunna. There is a lot of evidence to show that dialects in the Midlands, for example, in Offaly, that this would have been pronounced shanna, perhaps. So, Unaid a Canna, the owner of the fox. But, so we would expect Ginneduch ontla chevu. Now, there's the old punk, which we would expect to be replaced by H nowadays. Ach, but because S is Baurin Lagunson, the queen of consonants, there's a special rule around the S, and that is where we would expect on SH that actually changes to on TS. I have heard many teachers describe that T, I've heard many teachers describe that that T as a naru. It's not a naru. It's not a ru. It's just a special form of chevu for Baurin the Gonson, for the queen of consonants, after the word on. Now, because of this, maybe we should talk about the phonetic reasons behind this. The history of it. This is quite interesting. And this applies to feminine words as well. So if we go back to Proto-Irish, let's pick a word. Can't think of any word in in ancient Irish that begins with an S. That isn't complicated. Okay, let's take the word fox. So in Proto-Irish, Proto-Irish, that's arguably Proto-Irish is Middle Irish, but Shinskia Welle. Sin those probably enough other right? So Shindosh Shinmakosh. This N was possibly another consonant. We don't know what the etymology is, or at least I don't know what the etymology is. It's possibly related to the Greek. There's some Greek word for fox that might be a substrate word from the language that was spoken in Greece before the Greeks arrived. But anyway, so the fox. whereas the genitive would have been shindi shina ki, where we have the nominative, the animnuch, being replaced by the giniduch ending e. Now, to go through a number of steps. This is an unstressed word. The stress in this word was on the first syllable. The fox, much as it is in English. So this is what's called a clitic, an unstressed word, or a weakly stressed word. That first of all turned into that. Vowels were shortened. Now, the origin of shevu of softening is that when a single consonant was between two vowels in ancient Irish. So this S became lenited or softened, and softened S became the sound H. Now, what should I be talking about here? The vowel became short, the K became palatal, and that vowel was short. Arguably, that was palatalized as well. The next stage of this is that H was lost in unstressed positions. So this is a clitic again. So the H disappeared, and somewhere around the year, probably, according to Kenneth Jackson, I think he said it was 550 that apocope occurred. So Hindi became ing with this slender g, probably. So I'm dealing in sounds for the moment, not in spelling. This H disappeared because this is an unstressed word. It's a clitic, C-L-I-T-I-C, whereas this is stressed, so the H remained. Now, again, apocope, the loss of final syllables. Oh, sorry, apocope occurred, was at 500, syncope was 550, yes. The shame. Now, so we went from to k. I'm using this J. Arguably a better symbol would be the plus sign underneath it to show that the tongue is further forward. An advanced velar stop. Now, of course, because this K was between vowels itself, much as this... Oh yeah, sorry, I skipped that step. That K itself would have become softened and it would have become the sound. Now you can write it as an X with the palatal symbol, but it does have its own dedicated symbol in the International Phonetic Alphabet. So, hinge, hinnachje, hinnachje. And then this would have been ind. So we lost the last syllable, so we were just left with, so that should be a C. We were left with ind, hinnach, with the long N. Well, exactly, in kinnach. Now, you'll know from watching my previous videos that consonants can be arranged according to where and how they are pronounced. Let's say t, d, no, lo, let's put S somewhere down there at the bottom, doesn't matter. And sorry, PT, K, G, mo. What am I doing? Eng, letter eng, which is commonly spelled in the Latin alphabet as ng because there's no specialized symbol. And there are other sounds as well that we're leaving out just for the moment, which is actually a P. Now, so all these sounds, there's no vibration in the vocal cords when you're saying them. Whereas when you say these, they're a bit louder. This is what's called the sonority hierarchy. As we go up, the volume is increasing. It's hard to hear because they're so short, but obviously you can hear that are much louder than. So these are unvoiced or unvibrating, no vibration in the vocal folds. So, Kesh de Gomort, the sound H is obviously unvoiced, it's very quiet. So the effect that this unvoiced H had on this D, the slender D sound, was that the D became unvoiced to T. So int, hinnach, inkinnach, and eventually in Old Irish that would have been pronounced in kinnach. Now, so there's another rule that happened. So in Old Irish that would have been written as now. To show, so this sound is a slender, soft C. So it's a C of sorts. They used H to show that it was a soft C. They might as well have used an X or a third emoji, but they chose H for certain reasons. And to show that it was a slender CH, they put in this spelling vowel I. It's unetymological. There's nothing to actually do with. At no stage was it pronounced. It's just a spelling vowel. But of course, then this gives us int. Well, how's the rule? Intionnach, unstressed ch. So here's the main stress at the start of this word. This is an unstressed vowel, so the unstressed ch became y. Intionnach. And over time, that different things happen to that in different dialects. Intionnach in Munster, in Tionna, probably in Kilkenny, possibly in Canna in the Midlands and parts of Connacht, in Northern Connacht and in Ulster, in Tionney. But that's basically where this un-ts comes from. A better spelling would actually probably be un and maybe t/sh, because the sh is still being lenited, softened as usual, but it's just that this softened s, this has now devoiced the original d of the article. What happened later was that ind became inn. So this is why here, for example, we don't have any d, because regularly following a rule, following a pattern, became inn. But before this change happened, the d was devoiced by the. So that also explains a similar pattern happened for feminine nouns. The exact same thing. Feminine nouns would have ended in ind, for example. So any word beginning with s / vowel, whatever, v for vowel, the s would have been between two vowels, so it would have become softened. So shortened vowels, that would have become h, and then eventually apocopy, loss of final syllables, and again the h then would have been in contact with the d, so d became devoiced to h, the exact same pattern. Now we only have a couple of minutes left. This is probably the most compact video. It is the most compact video I've made so far. What else? No, agus an álu, I don't think anything special there to talk about. Probably not. Well, again, just to emphasize, so this T is not in the roux. It occurred in the exact same circumstances where chevu would normally occur. That is between two vowels, but it's just that the S, something extra happened to the S. Báirín na Gunsan, the Queen of Consonants. And actually, speaking of Báirín na Gunsan, this no plus roux, easy to remember. For example, Corrig Navar, which is a well-known place name. Corrig no Var. Now, actually, just to speak about the origin of a roux. So chevu refers to when a single consonant was originally between two vowels. An álu was caused by a word that originally ended in s, but as I said, unstressed s at some stage first became h, and this is why now, for example, well, I can't think of any word, but no puts a h on no, Hordoige of the thumb. Hordoige in Kerry with an A. Actually in Cork as well, as far as I know. But anyway, the Hordoige. But that H originally comes from an S. Whereas Oru, what an Oru is basically where there used to be an N. So INP, even though P disappeared from the Celtic languages, INP, of course, NP would have become a B up the scale. Wherever NB met, that NB became an M, arguably an MB first. So, for example, in a box, not that the word box was in ancient Irish when this happened, but so, well, in a cow, for example, ignoring cases and the irregularity of the word bow, it would have originally been in bow, and this is another thing I want to talk about, just pronunciation-wise. On before, so N, we can see on the map, is a coronal or front of the tongue consonant, as opposed to back of the tongue, the dorsal or the dorsum of the tongue, or using the lips, But what happens this N when it is pronounced is that it assimilates, becomes more similar to, assimilate, to the following consonant. So when N is before B, P, or M, it becomes So N changes to M before a labial consonant, and before a velar, before a dorsal consonant using the back of the tongue, the N changes to an NG. So the coat, for example, is actually pronounced as if it were, well, I'll use the international, coat. Not on quota, but on quota. And the same way, the milk, banye, even though that it ends up being dropped anyway. And the same for the lenited forms, but MH, BH, whatever. But novav, this is interesting, but I probably won't have time to talk about it. This word would originally have been something like, well, it would have been sindan, and eventually this would have become, well, sindan wira on, wasn't it? Yeah. No, I'm wrong. Was it an O? I think it was an O. Yeah, it was an O. Oh, of course, it was an O stem. Yeah. But basically, what happened is that NW, the N disappeared, but it preserved this W. Now, this W actually became V, a bilabial fricative. But when apocopy happened around 500, it left the preserved W, or bilabial fricative, V, and the O, again, if we remember our vowel triangle, I, A, O, the O pulled the I downwards to the same level as O, which is an E, so that in Old Irish would have been nover, even though there was no way of showing it. Right, I'm going to stop there, but I thought I'd get something out on the Corramalay Yairi sauce Namadif. Oh yes, so probably the next video I'll make is going to be about vowels. But no matter what level of Irish you're at, whether you're a beginner or you're an expert, if you think that I might be able to be of some help, and maybe I won't, let me know what kind of things you'd like me to talk about, or if you have a particular question. Slán go fóill.